Hello loves, welcome back to my channel. I do sewing and fashion videos. Please stay tuned and subscribe because you won't want to miss this. So I'm looking for how to make this casual all over the internet as if no one else has done anything. So I've decided to solve everybody's problem. Here is an example of one I made and it's looking so gorgeous. If you want to learn how to do this, please stay tuned. I'll be doing from sewing patterns to the actual sewing and other tips and tricks like the pocket, zipper flies, so you don't want to miss out on this. This is one I made for my lovely sister. You can see how beautiful it is on her, so stay tuned. So these are the measurements you'll be needing. So now on to drafting our front pattern. To draft our front pattern, we'll first make a border line of 1 inch. You're going to mark different points so you can get a straight line, and you're going to be squaring down to your pattern paper. After doing that, I'm now going to be placing my crotch length, which is my waist to my to the chair. That's how you measure your crotch length, your waist to your chair when you're sitting on a chair. And I'm also going to be squaring out that line. So now this is my waist, my crotch, and then on my waist I'm going to be marking my waist circumference divided by 4 plus 1 inch, and I'm marking it from the border line, and I'm also going to be marking it on the crotch line so I can square it down. So now on my crotch line, I'm going to be placing my lapse measurement plus 2 inches divided by 2. I'll be placing it starting from the beginning of the pattern. Unlike the waist, on the waist we started from after the 1 inch mark I made, but for the crotch you start exactly from that 1 inch. So after marking it, now I need to make my front crotch. To get my front crotch, I'm going to first be making a 45-degree angle. This will serve more as a guideline. And now I will measure from that angle point to the end of my mark. I'll measure it, and whatever I get, I'll divide it by 4, sorry. And then I will mark it on that angle I made. And then for my waist to crotch line, I'm going to mark the center point. It also serves as a guideline, and I'll connect these 3 points together. This will form my crotch curve. Your crotch needs to be deep. That's what's going to avoid you having that hole coming to. You have to have a deep crotch. So now I've done this to remove more of the camel toe effect. I'm taking out 1 inch from the top of my waist, and then I'll be connecting it back to my waistline. I'll be cutting that off later, but for now I'm going to be connecting my waist to my crotch with my pattern master, and this is how it's supposed to be looking. Now before we go into any other thing, we're going to be measuring our crotch line, and I'll marking the midpoint, and I'll be using this half midpoint to square it down. I'm using half of this measurement to square it down. I'll also be attaching more pattern paper so as to get my ankle measurements, because this pattern paper here is not going to be enough, so I had to attach more pattern paper for this. Once you attach more pattern paper, then you also continue squaring your line out. After doing this, I'm now going to be marking my waist to my knee line. I'll be marking my points of my waist to my knee line. You try to make as much points as possible so you can get a straight line. Also, I'll be marking my waist to my ankle line. And after my ankle, I'm going to be adding extra 1.5 inches for hemming allowance. This pattern, I'm trying to make every sewing allowance for this pattern included in this. So by the time if you follow this pattern accordingly, you wouldn't need to add any other seam allowance. So after labeling my knee and my ankle, for my knee, I'm going to take my knee circumference, divide it by 4, and I'll place it at each side of our lines. I'll place quarter of it here and also quarter on the other side. And then on the side of your side, I'm going to be adding 2 inches. So now whatever we have on our knee line, we're going to be transferring every single thing to the ankle. Remember that the side section is larger than the inseam section. So just whatever you have on your knee line, you take it that way and connect it to your ankle. This is going to be forming a straight leg. This pattern is very, very detailed. Please subscribe. Like, I literally did this for you guys, and there's no way you're going to see any pattern like this, well detailed like this. I have not seen any cargo pattern well detailed like this. So please help me and help me grow by subscribing, and check out some of my other videos. So now I'm just going to be connecting I'm going to be connecting my hip line as well. I'm just taking 1/3 of my crotch to my knee so I can have a guideline to how to form my curve. You need to have a pattern master for this, but if you don't have a pattern master, you can freehand it. Now with my pattern master, I'm also going to be making my inseam line. If you get confused in any way, you can check out my trouser video. It's more explanatory. That's like it has every basic explanation for you to understand. So our front calico pattern is done. I'm labeling that and I'll be cutting it out. Unlike I did here, please when you're cutting it out, on your crotch seam add 0.5 inches seam allowance. I'll show you later on, but you can see here this point I marked here. Please do not cut it out because we'll use it for guidelines for making the back pattern. When we are done making back pattern, then we can now cut it out. So now for the back pattern, I'm just tracing my front pattern because you get your back pattern through your front pattern. I'm tracing my front pattern. Please pay attention to how much space I'm leaving for like tracing my front pattern. For my waist, for the side, I'm leaving like 2 inches, and also at the top I'm also leaving like 2 inches because we'll also need that when drafting our pattern. So I'm just basically tracing my front pattern. Try to indicate your notches, it's very important. You can just make like a light tracing. Please, if you notice, I didn't trace my waist to crotch, the side of my waist to crotch. There's a reason for that. So after tracing this out, I'm just going to be thickening my lines and also indicating my actual crotch line. Once we are done with that, so now on the waistline, we're going to be coming in by 1 inch. This is also for the body fit, and also coming up by 1 inch as well. So as we've done this, on the back pattern, we're going to be having a dart, but before then, we're going to be making our back crotch line. So now on that angle point, that 45-degree angle, I'm extending it by 1.5 inches from the front crotch already. I'm not starting from the beginning of the angle, I'm starting from the front curve angle. I'm extending it by 1.5 inch, and then the crotch line, where our last measurement is, I'm also going to be extending the line by 3.5 inches. You can see me here adding 3.5 inches. So as I've done that, we're going to be connecting these 3 points together. You can freehand this, or you can also use a pattern master. Any which way you're doing it, please, the curve should be a deep curve, not a shallow curve. If you make it shallow, it's going to have that whole excess fabric at the back, so it needs to be deep, and it's this deep curve that actually accentuates your butt better. This cargo is like cargo that will show your shape exactly. So once done with that, we're going to be making our waistline. For our waistline, our back, like I said, our back is going to have a dart. So you're going to mark your waistline divided by 4 plus 2 inches, 1 inch for sewing and 1 inch for dart. I'm extending that waistline there because we're going to now be marking our new waistline from the top 1 inch we extended up. So it's going to be like a diagonal line. So this is how your new waistline is supposed to be. You connect that to the slanted line. Once done with that, bring your front pattern and then place your points to match with your back pattern, and then slightly pivot your lines to connect at your waist and your crotch line still holding to your back crotch line. If you don't understand what I just did, please watch the video again. Trust me, you need to do this. So now you know we added 1 inch for our darts. Now we're going to be marking our dart. I'm marking my knee to nipple point, which is like 4 inches. I'm taking ½ inch at both sides, and then I'll be drafting my dart leg. But I won't be drafting it straight. I'll be tilting it a bit, and I'll be taking 5 inches darts. With that 5 inches, I will now be connecting my ½ inch I already took at both sides, and this is my darts. So I extended my pattern paper. I remember that 3.5 inches we took, so I'm now placing it from my front inch seam. I'm taking it out by 3.5 inches. This will serve as our sewing allowance. So I'm going to be connecting it. All your sewing allowance will be at your back pattern. I took out the 3.5 inches. I extended by 3.5 inches, and that formed my back inseam. So I'll be cutting out my pattern now. Please remember, mostly if you're a beginner, please add in ½ an inch seam allowance at the crotch. Adding ½ an inch seam allowance at the crotch. You won't want to miss this. Like I said in the front pattern, I didn't add it, but I was saying that I'm going to show you how to add it. I'm going to later add my front pattern. So you have to add it, and you cut that out. With this, all your seam allowances will be included, and also I'll be showing you a way of adding your seam allowances even after removing your waistband. So I'll be showing you that in a sec. Like I said, for the front pattern, you can see I'm showing you that in front pattern, if you're following me accordingly, please add ½ an inch seam allowance in your front pattern. Now onto your front, remember that 1 inch we left there. You can now cut it because we've used it. It has served its purpose. You can now cut it out. Now I'm just marking out where my zipper fly will be. I'm using like a zipper fly of 8 inches. So I'm just marking 8 inches. I like to mark this so when I'm cutting my fabric, I will notch it and know that I'm not making any mistakes. So now onto our waistband. For my waistband, I'm using 1.5 inches. So I'm going to be cutting that out of this pattern. But remember, on this pattern, we got our seam allowances in here. So instead of cutting out 1.5 inches, I'm going to be cutting out 1 inch. Once you cut that out, you will connect it and take it out. That ½ inch I left to serve as our sewing allowance for the front. But remember, when you're cutting out your waistband, you eventually cut out 1.5 inches. We're just leaving ½ inch for the sewing allowance. So same thing as the back as well. Instead of cutting out 1.5 inches, which is our actual waistband, we're cutting out 1 inches because we're leaving ½ inch to serve as our sewing allowance. But remember, when you're cutting out your waistband, you actually cut out 1.5 inches with whatever sewing allowance you want with that. So now onto our pockets. I'm marking 4 inches, or maybe you can use your nipple to nipple measurement, and I'm also marking 3.5 inches for our depth. But because I want our sewing allowance to be here, I'm coming up by ½ inch on both the side and also the top. Then I'll be squaring that out, and with my pattern master I'll be forming a slight curve, more like you're forming like a neckline or something, but with your pattern master just form a curve because we don't want any boxy looking pockets here. So we've just made our curve. So what I like to do to save myself the stress, I like to take a piece of paper, place it under my pattern, and then just cut it. While I'm cutting out that curve, that pattern curve we just made, I'll cut it together so it can come out together, like everything is the same size. No problem, just everything is the same size. This is what I like to do. You can see even the side of the pattern, it will come out the same size, so it's not anything like you have any excess fabric or whatsoever. So now I've done that, I'm now going to shorten the pattern paper to whichever depth of pockets I want. You can see me here just alternating my pattern paper because I didn't have enough, so I'm just taping it so I can actually form my actual square. So you can see this is how your pattern is meant to be looking. This is your pocket. You can see it matches perfectly. So one other thing I like to do is that I like to make a curve at that sharp edge there. This helps you to avoid collecting dust. If you notice in your jeans, you will notice that there is some sort of curve in your jean pocket or even a stitch. This helps you avoid collecting dust. So this is how your pattern is supposed to be looking. And same thing with your back pattern. Stay tuned though, subscribe or you don't want to miss the sewing of this video. Please help me out. Love you guys. See you guys next time. Bye.